When you work with relief wells, the one question you hear most often is, "How are you?" Other questions you may get asked is, "What is a relief well? Why do we need a relief well plan? And how do you make a relief well plan?" This is the part of the course we call What, Why, How. As far as I know, there are no universal industry accepted definitions for relief wells, and the name could mean something different depending on who you talk to. But usually it is referred to as a directional well that is drilled from a safe location to intersect and control a blowout. Typically, we refer to relief well as the last line of defense when surface or subsea control methods are either not possible, not safe, or will take too long. There are a lot of other types of wells that share similarities with relief wells, but are not drilled to control a blowout. Wells that are directionally drilled to intersect one or more wells using downhole ranging techniques include plug and abandonment wells, which are drilled if surface access is impossible for whatever reason. Personally, I have been involved in more P&A relief wells than actual blowout relief wells. There are many different concepts for geothermal wells, and some that involve connecting horizontal wells and laterals to create closed flow loops. Similarly, downhole well connects are also often done for coal bed methane projects, where you will drill one or more drainage wells that intersects a horizontal well with multilaterals. If you want to drill an extremely long extended reach well, you may consider daisy chaining wells together. An example could be that you cannot have a production platform offshore because the field is located in the Arctic or by a beautiful beach resort. In this case, you could drill multiple extended reach wells and tie it all back to shore. As an alternative to a pipeline on the ground or seafloor, sometimes wells are connected underground. This includes river and canyon crossings. There are also other types of well connects, but in this course we will focus on relief well plans where surface access on the target well is not possible and the objective is to control a blowout. If somebody needs a relief well plan, it could mean that a blowout has occurred. In this case, it is recommended to begin planning a relief well immediately, whether it is believed to be necessary or not. Usually, the relief well planning and execution will be done in parallel with a surface or subsea intervention. More commonly, relief well plans are made for upcoming wells as part of contingency planning and risk management. After the 2414 blowout in 1989, relief well contingency planning became a requirement for planned wells offshore Norway. It has since become a requirement many other places in the world, and a standard practice for many operators. However, there is no universal industry definition for what a relief well contingency plan is or what it should contain. Often, the relief well contingency plan is split into two parts, and they are called by different names. In this course, I will call them relief well response plan and relief well feasibility assessment. The relief well response plan is a general plan that every company should have. It may cover a specific region or drilling campaign, but it will be part of the emergency response plan and tied to the incident command system or incident management system. Typically, the document will include lists of personnel that will be mobilized when the incident management team is activated and the roles they will take in the event of a blowout. It also often contains a lot of flow charts and tables for the different roles, highlighting their responsibility, the tasks, and processes that needs to be completed. Now, a relief well feasibility assessment, on the other hand, is well or site specific. In example, an operator wants to drill an exploration well offshore for the planned reservoir and well design. The assessment will address hypothetical blowout scenarios and investigate how a relief well could be drilled and used to kill the blowout. The report will conclude on the feasibility of the relief well to meet all of its objectives, highlight potential challenges, and make recommendations on solutions for the challenges. This is what this course will focus on, and from here on out, when I talk about relief well planning, I'm referring to the relief well feasibility assessment. Personally, I think the most important question for this part of the course should be, why do we need a relief well contingency plan? There's been many times when I've had to tell my 7-year-old son to put on his seatbelt when we're in the car together, and I've heard from the back of the car that I'm just saying that to be a control freak. Similarly, I've met plenty of engineers who needs a relief well plan just because they've been told to get one. I think there are very good reasons for both wearing a seatbelt and having a relief well contingency plan. Even if the relief well plan will likely never be put to use for an actual event, pre-incident planning will help properly evaluate the risk for an upcoming well. It will familiarize personnel with unusual operations that could become necessary. It may identify current industry gaps and challenges. And if a blowout should occur and a relief well is necessary, then the relief well contingency plan will of course be even more important. It will minimize the response time since there's already a plan in place. It may reduce poor decisions made by people that will be under a lot of stress. We've also seen that it improves the press releases and limits damage to the public's image. But most importantly, it protects personnel, operators, and industry. This is particularly true after the blowout has been brought under control, which is often followed by litigations and lawsuits. The relief well is the last line of defense against a blowout. It is the one control method that we have to make sure will always work. I personally like to think that the purpose and main objective of the relief well contingency plan is to prevent an unkillable blowout. As an industry, we should always make sure that we are not becoming complacent or that we put ourselves in a situation that we cannot recover from. Here's a quote and a picture of General Kester just for context. You may have heard well control experts say that there is no such thing as an unkillable blowout, and whatever company they work for has a 100% success rate. I'm not here to burst anybody's bubble, but there are some blowouts that have been flowing for a long time that we as an industry don't like to bring up. Here's a picture of a gas field in Turkmenistan that have been flowing since 1971. Another example is the Lucy mud volcano, which has been flowing since 2006 and has been referred to as the worst man-made disaster ever. There are other examples as well, but this is a controversial and sore subject for many people in the industry. And we will talk more about what could make a relief well execution challenging or impossible later in this course. So far, we've talked about the what and the why. Now let's move on to the question, how do you make a relief well contingency plan? A good place to start, I think, is to look at the governing regulatory agencies' requirements for the location where the well is planned to be drilled. The operator should also have an internal standard for relief well planning, and there are also industry recommended practices and standards to help with the planning process. An example is the Industry Steering Committee on Wellbore Survey Accuracy. The Well INTERSECTS Subcommittee ebook is an excellent resource for learning about ranging and drilling relief wells. There are other examples, but it seems that Nordsk D010 is still the most widespread and used standard for relief well planning. Many regulatory agencies are also using it or parts of it for their permitting requirements. In this slide you can see an excerpt from Nordsk D010 for relief well planning. It is recommended to read through the whole relief well part of Nordsk D010, but you can do that on your own time. I have tried my best to clean up or summarize the text into concise bullet points. Relief well locations, intersect point, relief well design, and dynamic kill. In a relief well contingency plan, these may be titles or of different chapters of the report, and going forward we will discuss these topics in more detail.